Indo-Pacific Regional Dialogue 2024, organized by the Indian Navy and the National Maritime Foundation, had experts from across the world in attendance. Some of them took time out to talk to StratNews Global about the situation in the region and what it means for the rest of the world.
My name is Shafiah Muhibat. I'm a Deputy Executive Director from a think tank based in Jakarta, Indonesia, called the Centre for Strategic and International Studies.
Okay.
So I'm here to speak in the first session, actually, at this year's IPRD.
I see.
Yeah.
Have you been here before?
Here as in Delhi?
No, for this particular
Oh, for this particular event, no. So
Okay.
this is my first time attending IPRD, and so far I'm very delighted to be here.
Okay, thank you. So since you have very little time and you want to go over the next session, I'll just ask you a very, very quick question. Do you think this particular session that we're having, or this thing that we're having, is really about the Pacific, or is it about China?
Oh, that's interesting. I think the overall topic is about Indo-Pacific, right? But I think you cannot escape discussing China when you talk about the Indo-Pacific, of course, because China is a really big player in the region. I mean, for us in Southeast Asia, I'm based in Indonesia, and our perspective is also looking up, from Southeast Asia, we'll look up. And China's presence is imminent. And for us, China is a partner, definitely. For ASEAN, China is an important partner. But also at the same time, we do see the challenges posed by China's presence in the region as well. So I don't think you can discuss Indo-Pacific without discussing China.
But I don't think they have a Chinese presence here at this meeting.
That's quite interesting, and I think that's something that I think is missing from the discussion as well. Yeah.
So that's the first part. The second part is, I don't know whether ASEAN itself has a policy towards China. It's each individual nation that has a policy.
Yes.
Why is that?
Well, whether we like it or not, ASEAN is an association. It's not like an EU sort of like supranational body. So it's an association comprised of 10 countries. In most of the issues, we try to have a common position. But on specific issues like with China, of course, each of the countries would have its own. We have different levels of engagement with China. We would have different kinds or different types of relations with China. And I think that's part of our lives in Southeast Asia. But what is, I think, similar in terms of our common position with regards to China, I think none of us want to see an open conflict in the region. So I think that's a common position that we have. But you're absolutely right. I don't think we have a position in China, and I don't think that's in interest that we have to have such common position on certain issues like China.
So ASEAN works by consensus, right?
Yes, that's true. That's true.
So the last question, do you also have territorial issues with China?
With China, of course, yes. Yes. So the claimant states of South China Sea, from Southeast Asia is Philippines, Malaysia, Vietnam, and Brunei.
Right.
Indonesia is not a claimant state, but a part of our EEZ overlaps with China's 9-dash line. So yes, we do have territorial disputes with China. And if you follow, the developments, of course, Philippines is the one having close encounters with China in their borders. Yeah.
Do you have time for one last question?
Sure.
Okay. We've had a reasonably good relationship with India because, particularly the military one seems to be developing a lot.
Between, sorry?
The military one.
Between Indonesia and India.
Okay. Of late,
yeah.
I've been noticing a lot of, warships going on
Sure.
and all that stuff. Is that, do you attribute that to, China, or do you think it will develop and so on?
Not necessarily. Maybe, China is always a factor in all of different policies. But I think with India and Indonesia, just put it on paper. There's a long list of factors why we should cooperate. It's a long history, geographical positions, and so on. So it's only natural that Indonesia and India would want to work together. But I think there are challenges in the past and until now. Mostly, I think, in terms of resources. But I think moving forward, we really need to figure out a way how to forge a closer cooperation between Indonesia and India.
Are we moving in that direction?
I hope so. I hope so. I do think that there are now more engagements, but of course, more engagement doesn't really mean the increase of the level of positive, yeah, exactly, or beneficial. But I think for countries like Indonesia and India, this, more and more engagements can only, bring good for the relationship.
What would be the one point of friction that you see already, which is there?
What do you mean?
What would be one point of friction that you see between the two countries? One sort of, place where we don't agree.
What we don't agree?
India and Indonesia.
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I don't think it's possible to pinpoint just one issue.
It could be Ukraine. It could be it could be anything.
If you put everything under the sun, Indonesia and India, I think we are competitors in a lot of commodities,
right,
in terms of trade. So that could be a point of friction as well, because we are competing for the same market in a lot of our commodities. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much. I'm so sorry I kept you from your...
No, it's fine. It's fine. Don't worry.